Good morning, everyone. And on behalf of AAA's fantastic public affairs team, most of whom are here today, I want to welcome you to our headquarters building. This is the epicenter of AAA Northeast, and very happy that you could all make some time today to join us. Over the past decade, we've seen a tragic trend here in Rhode Island. Our state has a higher proportion of impaired driving fatalities than the national average. That national average is about 30%, but alcohol-impaired crashes have accounted for more like 40% here in Rhode Island. Recently, we have changed that dialogue, too, about impaired driving to also reflect the problem of drug driving. All too often, when a driver is seriously or fatally injured in a crash, both alcohol and drugs are found in their system. And now, with the advent of recreational cannabis sales in the state this very month, we must remind ourselves that every substance that makes us feel different reduces our ability to operate a motor vehicle safely. A 2022 NHTSA study, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration study, showed us that approximately 56% of drivers involved in fatal or serious injury crashes tested positive for at least one drug. Approximately 20% tested positive for two or more drugs, what we call polydrug use. The most prevalent drug category in seriously or fatally injured drivers wasn't alcohol, it was cannabinoids, the active THC in cannabis, followed by alcohol. So law enforcement is well represented here today, and we thank them for the work they do every day of the year to keep our roads safe. But this work must begin with each driver. It must begin with us as hosts, and sometimes it means intervening when we observe someone who intends to drive after drinking or consuming an impaired substance. Last New Year's Eve, a beautiful young lady named Olivia Passaretti, a senior at East Greenwich High School, lost her life to an impaired driver making it home from a family gathering. I'm sure you all heard about it, read about it, a tragic situation. Olivia was one of more than 43,000 people to lose her life in a crash on American roadways last year. But it's important to call victims by their names. They are loved and cherished and deeply missed. Through the years, as holidays approach, we do our best to remind drivers to be responsible and to make safe choices, especially regarding impairing substances. Today, we're hoping to provide an additional perspective as well, the perspective from victims' families. And to communicate this, please welcome Jennifer O'Neill, the Director of Victim Services of MADD, Rhode Island. Jennifer, come on up.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Jen O'Neill and I am the Victim Advocate at Mothers Against Drunk Driving in Rhode Island. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the countless victims across our great state who are forced to spend this holiday season with an empty chair at the table. For the victims whose holidays and everydays are forever changed from injuries, emotional trauma, and the death of a loved one, all because of the 100% preventable crime of impaired driving. When you make the decision to get behind the wheel under the influence of alcohol and other drugs, you are making the decision to change other people's lives forever. Have you ever lost someone that you love? Have you ever experienced the debilitating feeling of deep grief? Imagine that you had the power to bring that person back. Imagine if they were gone just because of the selfish decision of another person, a person who could have planned ahead and could have prevented the tragedy. Don't be the reason someone else suffers. Don't drive impaired. Plan ahead. Designate a sober driver. Use a ride-sharing service. Or if all else fails, stay home and celebrate responsibly from home. If you're hosting a holiday gathering, please be sure to plan ahead as well. Don't let your guests leave impaired, and be sure to follow Rhode Island social host law. Don't provide alcohol to anyone under the age of 21. Together, we can prevent the senseless tragedies that are the result of drunk driving, drugged driving, and underage drinking. Together, we can create a world where there are no more victims. If you have been impacted by impaired driving, please know that victim advocates are always here for you, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. whether at our local office, 401-421-0800, or our 24-hour victim helpline, 1-877-ASK-MADD. MADD services are provided free of charge to all victims of impaired driving and include grief support, community resource referrals, assistance navigating both the criminal and civil justice system, and much more. At MADD, we are here and we care. If you were victimized 40 years ago or just yesterday, you still deserve support and we are here for you. I wish you all a safe, happy, and healthy new year. Thank you.
Boy, Jennifer, you offered such common sense advice. And the hope this weekend is that everyone heeds that advice, not only this weekend, but every weekend of the year, as far as that goes. But thank you. And by the way, Jennifer is new to her role at MADD the past month or two, I think it is, and we're very, very optimistic that she will make a big difference and really impactful work with victims that you'll be dealing with. Our next speaker this morning is someone who I consider requires very little introduction. He's a gentleman who's been in the transportation ecosystem for many, many years, and for the past 8 or 9 years now, he has been heading up the Rhode Island Department of Transportation. He is a strong and vocal and staunch advocate for traffic safety, and I think the work he's done with a wonderful team, represented here by several RIDOT folks, is making a big difference. I'm talking about Peter Alviti, Director of RIDOT. So Peter, come on up.
So, I had some statements that were largely data and statistics that I was going to deliver today. But frankly, after hearing Lloyd and Jennifer, I'm going to dispense with the data and statistics. I think what Jennifer said hits the nail right on the head. This isn't about the number of people that have died. This is, well, it is, but it's more about the names of the people that have died. The families that are missing someone at their table this year. More importantly for this group, and I look at the participants, and Lloyd, you said we have a good team at DOT, but this is the team. If you look around this room, there are advocates and people that work day in, day out. We have law enforcement here. We have the Colonel of State Police here. We've got Jennifer and Wesley, who are going to be taking over MADD as an organization. We've got AAA. You know, Lloyd, this is your last gig today, but during the last 27 years, AAA has always been right at the forefront of talking about this problem, right? We have law enforcement here. And we have you, the press, here. You show up every time we have one of these events, you show up. That's very important. This messaging that we're doing is very important. The good news is it's working. It's working. Your enforcement is working. The messaging that you help us do is working. The work that organizations like MADD and AAA are doing is working. The numbers are going down. Unfortunately, the proportion of deaths on highways is still high in Rhode Island, those that are attributed to drunk driving. And now we have the additional worry about other substances entering in and combining with alcohol. And the probability of somebody getting into an accident while under the influence of alcohol is high. It multiplies disproportionately when it's combined with marijuana. So we have a whole host of, while we're trending in the right direction, there are a lot of pressures and a lot of situations out there that are going to trend these numbers back in the other direction again. And that means people, as Jennifer said. During this last week, we lost one soul to an accident. Going into the New Year's, we can all do better. Appealing to the people who get behind the wheel drunk is one of the targets that we can aim at. But the other are the people who allow people to get behind the wheel drunk. If you see someone about to make the wrong decision, do what you can to stop them. Get out of your comfort zone, take the keys, get them a ride, do whatever you have to do to prevent somebody from making the wrong decision, because they're in no shape to make the right decision themselves. Do it for them. Help us out. Everybody here is working. We're all here appealing to you all out there to help us solve this problem so that we can have a safe and happy new year. And that's what it's all about. So thanks everybody for your help. Thanks for your support.
Peter said it exactly right. We have a lot of work to do, no question about it. We know that our impaired fatalities are higher than they should be against the national average. But we did get some good news 3 weeks ago. The American Advocates for Highway Safety have a rating system that they measure what kind of traffic laws each state has. And you know how oftentimes Rhode Island ends up at the bottom of the barrel with some of these surveys and polls that are done, et cetera? We were actually in the top 5 in the country. And by my measures, we were tied for first with New York in having really thoughtful laws. And the way they're enforced, it makes a massive difference. And these ladies and gentlemen who are here do exactly that at the municipal level. And we're very fortunate to have an incredible state police force headed up by Colonel Weaver. And I'm going to turn the podium over to him, knowing that he is fairly new to the position, but leading with a lot of experience on the state police force. And that's where the rubber meets the roads, knowing that state police, troopers are out there each and every day making a difference and making the roads safer. So with that, let me welcome Colonel Darnell Weaver.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to join you today. Before I begin, I would like to share my sincere thanks with my colleagues here. This group of advocates, MADD, AAA Northeast, and the Office of Highway Safety, have been consistent and steadfast collaborators with law enforcement for decades. I know I speak for our troopers and others in law enforcement when I say that I am grateful for the work you do to make our highways safer. Highway safety is a core responsibility of the Rhode Island State Police. Our troopers are on Rhode Island roads across the state, helping with disabled motor vehicles, conducting traffic enforcement, inspecting commercial vehicles, and looking for impaired drivers. In November of 2019, we launched a traffic safety unit that is tasked with identifying and apprehending impaired drivers. Driving while impaired is a primary driver of fatalities and injuries on our roadways. Since the creation of the Traffic Safety Unit, TSU for short, troopers within the TSU have made 1,694 arrests. 959 of those arrests have been impaired drivers. This year alone, the Traffic Safety Unit members have made 621 arrests, 353 of which have been for impaired driving. With every arrest, we are preventing that person from potentially hurting themselves or someone else. The recent legislation of marijuana has created an additional challenge. Even though it is now legal to use marijuana recreationally in Rhode Island, operating a motor vehicle under the influence of marijuana is a crime, just like drinking and driving. Driving under the influence of marijuana is also increasingly dangerous. Studies show drivers under the influence of marijuana suffer from slower reaction and response times to emergency road conditions. In fact, marijuana causes impairment in every performance connected with the safe operation of a motor vehicle, such as motor condition, coordination, visual function, tracking, and multitasking. Even worse, combining marijuana with alcohol has additional effects of impairment. One study showed that 26% of drivers who were seriously injured or killed in crashes from 2019 to 2021 had THC in their system. As a state trooper, I can tell you that our worst days are the scenes of a fatal crash, especially ones that involves impairment. We know that the crash and death and the agonizing pain felt by the family and loved ones are completely preventable. Our message is always the same: drive sober. And we hope that more Rhode Islanders will follow our advice in 2023 and beyond, so that we can have fewer of our worst days and Rhode Island families can be spared the suffering of an unnecessary loss. Thank you.
Colonel, thank you for reinforcing the issue around cannabis, where we're out there with a Shifting Gears program that Diana Gugliotta was very instrumental in putting together back in 2017, 18. We've administered the program to over 100,000 kids, and many of them believe that when they get high at 16 or 17 years old, they're more focused than ever. And it's been our job through this program to dispossess them of that notion and to say, if you feel differently, you drive differently. So thank you for highlighting that. Our last speaker, and certainly last but not least, is Wes Pennington, a sergeant with the state police who retired fairly recently and has just been named the state director for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. AAA honored him with a 2022 Traffic Safety Hero Award earlier this year, and the work he has done as a drug recognition expert is exemplary. So, Wes, congratulations on your new role at MADD. We view MADD as an incredibly important partner in the traffic safety community, along with everyone else in this room, and we wish you the best of luck. So with that, let me turn it over to you, Wes.
It may be shocking to some to hear that 2 out of 3 people will be impacted by impaired driving in their lifetime. Statistically, most of us will either be involved in a crash or someone we love will. These events are both traumatic and life-altering. Unfortunately, after serving for over 2 decades in law enforcement, this fact does not shock me. Too often, my brothers and sisters in law enforcement and I are faced with what I consider the most difficult responsibility on the job. The first is coming to the scene of a serious crash and realizing that crash involved an impaired driver. The second is notifying a family or life partner that one of the most important people in their lives will not be coming home. Impaired driving is a crime, and it is completely preventable. Just as the troopers and the members of the Rhode Island State Police Traffic Safety Unit are focused on getting impaired drivers off the roadways, municipal departments throughout the state do the same. And on one of the most meaningful programs is our MADD partnership with law enforcement agencies to fight impaired driving in the memory of our local victims. We call this our Honor Patrol program. Victim families are invited to ride along with police officers as they do this work. We have the same goal and prayer, which is no more victims. I have devoted my life in enforcement to impaired driving laws, and I look forward to my new role as MADD Rhode Island's program director in the coming year. On this next part of my journey, I look forward to preventing the crashes I once responded to. I look forward to educating more Rhode Islanders and supporting victims. I realize I cannot do this work alone. So many gathered in this room are allies in this crusade against the preventable crime of impaired driving. But every driver, every host needs to take responsibility for their actions and their choices. This is a beautiful time of year. We are spending time with the people that we love. The simple act of designating a safe and sober ride can make the difference and alter the lives of so many. I'd like to take a moment to introduce to you one of the great allies in this room, today, Colonel Kevin Lynch, the Chief Police of Bristol, Rhode Island, who is the incoming president of the Rhode Island Chiefs Police Association. I'd like to introduce the Chief. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, great job. It's always difficult to follow Sergeant Pennington. He's a great speaker, and I've had him doing in-service trainings with the Bristol Police Department. Good morning and welcome on behalf of the Rhode Island Police Chiefs Association and all my brothers and sisters in law enforcement here this morning. A lot of data, a lot of statistics. One of the things on the MADD invite introduction was, over this holiday weekend, over 400 people are going to lose their life due to impaired driving. I thought that was completely staggering when I was looking over what was I going to talk about. Was I going to prepare a long speech, or was I going to try to resonate a message? I called Gaby yesterday and asked for a meeting to talk about my new installment as the president of the Rhode Island Police Chiefs Association. And every year, every holiday season, we get together with law enforcement and we stand behind the television cameras and we tell people that we're going to have increased enforcement and we're going to have honor patrols this weekend. In Bristol, we'll be honoring Samantha Kenley, who in 2017 was severely injured in a DUI motor vehicle accident on 295. She's a Woonsocket resident. She survived, but she still has sustainable injuries from that event. And I wanted to know, what message was I going to send for the next 12 months as the Rhode Island Police Chief Representative. I always remember the words 2 years ago from Peter Alviti. He talked about behavioral changes. And I look into the audience and some of the older police officers, and we can remember, what are some of the behavioral changes that law enforcement has been involved in? When you look at seatbelts, when I was raised, the seatbelt was my mother's right arm extending me from not hitting the dashboard. And we know through good communication, good enforcement, positive reaction, that we were able to change that culture. People now wear a seatbelt. It's second nature. They strap their child into a car seat. You look at smoking, that was going to be the end of the restaurant industry. Everything was going to change. Now we don't see kids smoking as much as we do because of the communication. So I challenge Sergeant Pennington and the rest of us in law enforcement. I was a little dismayed to say, are we going to get up? Are we going to give this annual statistics? You know, every day 30 to 32 people in our country die from a DUI or an impaired related automobile crash. Thousands of people die every year, and we don't seem to move the needle. We're doing a good job this year in Rhode Island. We're trending down. We're grateful for those statistics and the hard work of everybody in the room. But one of the things that we know between the ages of 2 and 33, the number one reason that there are fatalities in that age group are motor vehicle accidents, and we know that those accidents have impaired drivers. So last night, I also double as an adjunct professor at Roger Williams University. One of my students submitted a long paper, gave me quite a bit of information that I'm going to work on. And it has to be, I thought it was a little bit of luck on my part that this was the last paper that I had coming in. Grades are due in a couple of hours, so I'm running here to input grades into all of my students if they're watching. And this student certainly deserved an A. His paper talked about resonating and communicating to the millennial and the younger generation. We need to do a better job of reaching our younger populace. How do we do it? They're not going to go watch, unfortunately, the 10 o'clock, the 6 p.m. or the 11 p.m. news this evening. They're on social media. They have TikTok accounts. They have Instagram. They have Snapchat. So my challenge with MADD would be, how do we reach the younger generation? We need to have good communication and start teaching the children at a younger age, just like we did with seatbelts. I know my children would never put their children in a car without seatbelts. It was learned behavior, as Peter Alviti would say. So I'm willing to work very hard with MADD on how we can begin to market, rebrand our approach for 2023. And as our MADD representative said, if you're hosting a party for New Year's Eve, or if you have an event, I'm going to the Graduate, the old Biltmore, for a wedding. A retired Rhode Island State Trooper son is getting married. I've been invited to that. And I've already got a designated driver. I don't plan on overindulging, but I've already taken the opportunity to plan ahead. So if you're hosting a party, work on a rideshare. If you're planning that event, put a little extra time and care into it and make sure that all of your guests get home safely. And on behalf of everybody here, I want to say thank you. And on behalf of the Rhode Island Police Chiefs Association, we want to congratulate Lloyd Albert, as I understand that he'll be retiring today. There's a cake in the back of the room. Thank you for all of the work that you've done in partnering with law enforcement. You've done a fantastic job, and congratulations. Thank you.
But I'm just thinking, Colonel, if the last student to get his paper in gets an A, I would have gotten a lot of A's in college, to be honest with you. But boy, you made a lot of great points there, Colonel. And by the way, good luck with your presidency or chairmanship over the next year or so. But you talked about enforcement. There's a three-legged stool that we often talk about: engineering, enforcement, and education. And it's the folks in this room today that are responsible for articulating those on a regular basis. So as we wrap up today, I just want to reiterate what Director Albides said. We thank the media for being here, because you take this very seriously in amplifying the messaging that we're trying to get through. So if we all followed Jennifer's wonderfully thoughtful advice that she made to us this morning, we should have a very good holiday weekend. I can't thank everyone in the room enough for your work, for your advocacy, and for your engagement in this traffic safety community. It is a wonderful community in Rhode Island. We're doing some great stuff, but there's always more work to do. So thanks everyone for coming today, and Happy New Year. Happy and safe New Year. Thank you.